And we are live. You're watching Detective Diaries. I'm your host, Greg Lawson. This is where I interview strange and interesting people I meet along my paranormal journey. And let's see, last week we talked with Richard Estep. He is a paramedic and also a TV personality and author, a ghost hunter, researcher, and everything. And you can just Google his name and all kinds of stuff is going to come up. Next week, I think we're going to be talking on Tuesday, that would be June 2nd, to a friend of mine, Gypsy Jewel. She's got a YouTube channel called Zero Discrimination. And she's the person that whenever I'm assigned or whenever I have determined that I want to go and do some sort of paranormal investigation and I have something to do or I need something to be able to gather evidence better. She's one of the people I go to. She is pretty much of an expert with metal detecting, and she's awesome. So if you guys get a chance, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, she will be on, and we're going to talk about two locations that her and I investigated. One is where a massacre happened at a jail back in the 1870s in Belton, Texas. And the other one is going to be up in Mineral Wells at a place called the Haunted Hill House. So today we get to have Nikki Folsom on. She is an author. She's a paranormal explorer, paranormal researcher, world traveler, all around cool chick. And so let's go ahead and bring her on into Detective Diaries. Hey, Nikki, what's up?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. You know, Jeff Belanger is the one that kind of spurred me on doing this. He started doing the speakeasy and he was doing it. You know, he's Jeff Belanger, your barkeep, and doing the speakeasy on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I think at 6 o'clock. And I thought, man, we need to do something on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? So kind of Detective Diaries swung in there. So I will follow up with a tradition that Jeff Belanger has set, and will ask you, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a girly drink. I'm drinking Deep Eddy's peach vodka and ginger ale.
Nice. I've never had that. I guess I will have it this weekend.
You will.
Maybe. Yeah. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a juicy IPA from Lake Austin Ale. Yeah. So let's hear it. Ooh, this went all over the computer. Sweet. If I lose you guys, you know why. All right. So what does yours taste like?
Well, I mixed it with Canada Dry, this orange thingy-majiggy, orangeade is in it. And it tastes like peach and orange explosion. It's delicious.
Oh, really? Peach and orange explosion. All right. Let's see what this tastes like.
Okay.
It's like I bit into a big beer grapefruit. It's wonderful.
Is it juicy?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, it got all over my computer.
I love it.
So anyway, hey, you know, I asked you to come on here because I find you strange and interesting. And also, you and I and your behavior modification unit and my behavior modification unit have traveled all over the place, right? We've gone to some cool places.
We have.
And I kind of just wanted to hit on that and hit on the stuff that you've experienced. And a lot of people might not know who you are. So when you wrote the Haunted Harlequin, how long ago was that?
That was 2017. I think I published it March of 2017.
Okay. So yeah, throw you up there, the Haunted Harlequin.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what it's about, and then we'll get to some specifics at the end of the show.
Okay. So I've been volunteering at this theater on Fort Sam, Houston, in San Antonio, Texas, called the Harlequin since, 2009. And when I started volunteering, I started hearing all kinds of stories of things that happened around there, things that move and shadow people and voices and all kinds of orbs, you name it, everything. So I started capturing some of the experiences, and I started experiencing things myself. So I thought, well, what better time than to compile all this information and put it in a book and put it out? And it's been received so well. Everybody comes up to me that's the patron of the Harlequin or someone that spends a great deal of time there, and they'll say, "Hey, you didn't write about this." So now it looks like I'm going to have to write a second book.
Right. So, and that wasn't the beginning of your paranormal journey, right? How did this all start with you?
Okay, so and that's my second book. I started experiencing things when I was really young. My first ghost experience was I was about 6-ish, and I saw a soldier walk past my bedroom door. And it was very strange because I didn't know what the heck it was. It had like this cross of white, and he had a rifle on his shoulder, and it had what looked like a knife on the top of it. I had no idea what that meant, especially at that time. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I was older, that I grew up about 20 minutes outside of Gettysburg. So folks that may be watching are in Chambersburg. Chambersburg is where I grew up. And after that, things just started happening. I started seeing things. And one of the strangest things, I think Brad Blair was fascinated when I was telling him this story, is I used to watch shadow people in my basement of my old house. And I would sit, weird people.
No, man. I will say that, I think I've seen these things. But I don't know. It was dark.
No, they are there. I'm telling you, I've seen them. And what's funny is, Eric, my husband, Eric, has been a skeptic his whole life.
Very pragmatic.
Yes. Well, he has seen shadow people in the last, I would say, year or so. He's seen them several times at our house. So now I kind of want to be like, haha, but right. He's actually said to me, I understand why you and Ashton, my youngest, I understand why you sleep with the lights on. I understand why you sleep with the TV on, because if that's happening, if you're seeing that all the time, no wonder.
It's not the ghost of Glenn Levitt that's there, or Glenn Federick, or
any of the Glens. Eric's got it.
None of the Glens. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, so you and you actually, I'm gonna jump over to something real quick. I'm gonna throw this thing up here. You and Eric basically took Lynn and I on a customized personal tour because you guys have been to Edinburgh, yes, Scotland enough to know what everything is. So I've always dreamed of going here. I want to go during the tattoo, and the tattoo is where international bagpipe groups come, military bagpipe groups come and compete for, to say they're the best. And we got there, a couple of weeks after that, I guess. They were taking down the big stadium part and all that stuff. But I've always wanted to go there, man. And because of you and Eric, you guys facilitated a way to where we could do it. And, that box is checked. But I want to go back.
Oh, we're going back. I'll tell you, Greg, I've been to the tattoo. Eric and I went with our friends Julie and Scott. I can't even remember what year.
There's a lot of this, right?
Oh, a lot of that. It was amazing. It was like a mini version of the Olympics. It was absolutely amazing. And the Edinburgh Castle, which you had the picture up of, it had different lights on it, changing colors. And the coolest moment was they had a lone bagpiper standing at the top of the castle, and he played, because the ghost story of the lone bagpiper.
No.
Okay, so there's a
Why
story.
don't you tell us the ghost story about the lone bagpiper?
There's a thunderstorm going on in the background here in San Antonio, so
nice.
Excellent. So I know enough to be dangerous, and I'm drinking, so this could get bad. The story is that there was a lone bagpiper who was sent under the tunnels for the Royal Mile to walk to see how far it went, and he went into the tunnels and never came out. So the story is that there's a lone bagpiper that's trapped down there, and you can hear him playing his bagpipes or something.
Gotcha. All right. So it's crazy when in Texas, you're in San Antonio, I'm in Austin. And we're looking at a Anglican or a European history from maybe in my area, early or mid 1700s. There were missionaries that were coming up into this area, Spanish missionaries coming up from Mexico and from San Antonio to set up presidios and missions up in actually north of Austin, north of Georgetown. And so we work on that. And, there's some Spanish graveyards out there. There's the old sites where the Spanish missions are. But in reality, we're probably in our area only looking at a history, a European history of 200 years or so of things that could potentially be ghost stories or hauntings or legends like that. And you go to Edinburgh, Scotland, and you go to the castle, and you think about the hundreds of thousands of people that have died right there. Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling the history that they have there.
It really is. Edinburgh is probably one of my favorite cities in the whole world, followed by with London. London and Edinburgh are right up there. But it is absolutely one of my favorite cities. I could get lost there, and I could spend weeks. And I'll tell you, it's not the Frankenstein Bar, even though that's really, really cool. And if you go to Edinburgh, you've got to go to the Frankenstein Bar to watch the lightning hit. And
it is cool.
It's cool. But there's other places on the Royal Mile that are cool to go to. We stopped for breakfast that day at Deacon Brody's Cafe. That's his old blacksmith shop, and Deacon Brody is who Robert Louis Stevenson based Jekyll and Hyde on. So it's fascinating. That's right. Gosh, I shouldn't drink and do this because I can't remember it.
Oh, that's good. That's even better. Hey, we have a bunch of people chiming in on comments. For those of you who are watching, it would be awesome, great, super if you would share this broadcast. And also it would be really cool if you got on there and told us where you're listening from. It's kind of neat to figure out how many people, because a lot of times I'll have people from Australia. I have people from England. I'll have, all over the place. And so I wanted to chime out real quick. Shawnee says, hi, what's up, Shawnee? Yeah. And so Nikki, you guys took us on a Scotch tour there that was super fun. Super fun. Alyssa says, hey, Nikki. And there's Kim. What's up, Kim? Yeah, hey, Ruth Ann is on. We got a lot of people. Jenny Frank is on. Hey, Jenny. And so,
oh my gosh.
I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'll go through the whole thing. All right. So those of you that are watching, if you write some questions in the comments, I'll throw them at Nikki, or if Nikki sees them as they come along, we'll try to answer them for you. So
I was going to tell you, I don't know. I know you remember, because when we were in Edinburgh, one of my other favorite places to go, and there's a number of reasons that I love it, is Greyfriars Kirk. It is not on the Royal Mile, but it is off the Royal Mile. There we are.
Hey, this is our ghost hunter freaking picture right here.
We're climbing on someone's tombstone.
Can you? Those of you that are looking at this picture, that is a tombstone for somebody. It's not like a commissioned piece of artwork that was, put up someplace. That is somebody's tombstone, man. Yep. And we probably spent an unhealthy amount of time in that graveyard. We kept going back, right? Every day we went back.
We did. And what's frightening is every single time I go there, that's where I go. I'm pulled there. And like I said, there's a couple of reasons. One of them is over the hill that overlooks Greyfriars Kirk is the Elephant House. Okay, some people don't know what the Elephant House is, but it is where J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, at least where she wrote part of it. So it's called the birthplace of Harry Potter.
That's the tea shop, right?
Yeah, That's where Eric fell asleep. Yes,
Yeah,
the one.
yeah. We went in there. That was really cool to be able to go in there and sit where she is sitting and
Oh,
and making $1 billion.
right. But so what the cool tie-in from the Elephant House to Greyfriars Kirk is it's rumored, and I think it's true because based on what you see, that J.K. Rowling roamed the graveyard and pulled some of the names off of the tombstones to put in into the book. And there's actually a famous Scottish poet named William McGonagall, and anyone that's a Harry Potter fan knows who Professor McGonagall is, so it makes sense. But there's a number of different names in there, but the big grave, the cool one that I had to have my picture taken at, was the Tom Riddle grave. Now,
what is the Tom Riddle grave?
Oh gosh, you don't know Harry Potter, Greg. It is it is Lord Voldemort, he who must not be named. That's what his
Mm-hmm. So that's his grave there.
It was, and it was so cool. It's not the real person, but obviously, but it's just it was really cool to stand there and have your picture taken. This poor guy that died hundreds of years ago. But the other piece is the other cool piece. I also love royalty, and I love the history of royalty. I don't know. I go down rabbit holes all the time. But one of the cool things about Greyfriars Kirk is that Mary, Queen of Scots, is the one that allocated the land from the kirkyard to Greyfriars Kirk so that they could expand it and make the graveyard. So I think that is so cool that she did that, because originally it was I can't remember. It's a Covent Garden, but it's basically shops, and then they turned it into the churchyard turned into the graveyard.
And the coolest thing is, so people, I hear people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I want to go to England. I want to go to Scotland. I want to go to Ireland." A lot of people say go to Ireland. It's not that expensive. The plane tickets are roughly around $800 plus or minus. You can find good places to stay, and it is so amazing. Especially like on the Royal Mile in front of the castle.
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead.
There's a place that Dave took us to when we went the first time with him. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it's right in the center of the Royal Mile. It was fantastic. And there's places where you go where you want to stay in a chain hotel, but I encourage you, if you go and explore places in Scotland or in England, definitely take the opportunity to go stay in a local hotel.
Yeah, like a pub or something like that. Lynn had chimed in a few minutes ago. I don't know where her thing went. Oh, here we go. Remember when we found the witch's well, right?
Yes, because we were searching so hard for it, and then we were like, oh, there it is.
It's right there. We looked and looked and looked all around this place, and it was like 10 feet from us.
And it's like this thing.
Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah. Anyway, that's the thing about. I mean, we went on a lot of different things. We did a lot of underground there because, like in Seattle, they kept building the city up and building the city up. So these, shops that started here, all of a sudden the ground started rising around them, and all of a sudden they have now an underground in Seattle. They have a underground in Portland, and where Seattle and Portland have 1 or 2 levels of underground, Edinburgh has 9 levels of underground. I mean, it's crazy the amount of structure that is underground there.
Yeah, it is, and what thinks me is they built those out. I'm trying to remember the year that it was. I think it was the 1700s or something. They built them out. I had it in my brain. Now it's gone. But I believe it was the 1700s ish. They built out these vaults, which I find absolutely amazing. And the intention was to use them for storage and for distilleries and things like that, where you could just store things underground. Well, because it was dark and damp and nasty, they ended up, after I believe it was 30 years or so, they stopped doing that, and it became a place for where the poorest of the poor lived. And when the plague hit, Actually, it might have been, yeah, no, I think it was the plague that hit. Because my favorite story is in Mary King's Close, where they have, and I know you remember this, where they have the they put the flag on the houses of the people that were sick, and then when they couldn't leave their house, so what do? Where do they poo? They poo in a bucket in the side of the room, and then they stick the bucket out the door. And what do they yell, Greg?
I don't remember.
Oh my God, it was Gardeloo.
Was it Hootie Hoo?
No, it was Gardeloo.
Okay, Gardeloo. That's right.
And they poured poop right out the window.
Yeah, all over the street. It's human beings, man. I don't know. I'm a little confused about the whole human thing.
Well, but I will tell you, there's a really cool story that I personally experienced in the vaults. And we were in, when you and Lynn and when you and Lynn and Eric and I went into the vaults with the City of the Dead, I think they took us into a group of the vaults called the Damnation Alley. And I don't know the history about it, but I know it's called Damnation Alley. The other group that we went, or the other vaults that we went in, with Eric and I, they just were called the Southbridge Vault. So we went in, and the very first room that we walked into was an old storage room. And I think there were about 12 of us on the tour. And I know it was just Eric and I, because we were there celebrating our anniversary. And we had befriended these two Scottish gentlemen. Well, like I said, there's 12 of us in the room. It's dark for the most part. And all of a sudden, I see these blue orbs, not in a picture with my actual eye. I saw these blue orbs moving through the room. And at first I thought I was crazy until one of the Scottish guys we befriended said he saw them too. We both at the same time said, "Did you see those blue things floating?" No one else saw them. Only this guy and I. So it was really cool. And another cool story in those vaults was we were with Dave. I think this was 2014, and this was Eric's first real.
When you're saying Dave, you mean Dave Schrader with Darkness Radio? Is that who you're talking about?
Darkness Dave, yes.
Darkness Dave with the Halser Files on Travel Channel's awesome lineup.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So Eric, this was his first really paranormal exploration, if you will. So he went off to follow Dave in the vaults. And Dave has told this story on his show as well, but this is from the other side of it. So Eric is standing beside him, and Dave's doing EVPs. Of course, Eric's just kind of figuring this out. And Dave plays back the EVP, and it said darkness. And Eric almost pooped himself. So he goes back to the rest of the tour. Dave plays it. And it was so cool to watch Eric see this for the first time. I mean, it was just surreal for him, because he was like, holy crap, they're making this stuff up. I know.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So, and also with that, you've traveled around with a lot of different people, and you're part of a group called the Hellfire.
The Hellfire Girls. Yes.
That's right. And they're some of them are.
Yes. Amanda's not there.
And you, so this kind of started when everybody traveled to the Hellfire Club right outside of Dublin, right?
Yes, in Ireland, yes.
And that's kind of where all the congealing happened, as far as hooking up with like-minded people, and that's a fun thing about a lot of paranormal stuff is we don't know what it is. And there's a lot of us that really don't try too hard to absolutely narrow it down. It's just like something that happens, and you kind of accept it and go on. And that's the cool thing about paranormal explorers, is they just want to go to these places and experience the history. Some people like history of, when the government started, where did they sign the Constitution, that sort of stuff. Well, there's other history too. I call it alternative history.
I like that. I like that. And
alternative history is sometimes a lot more fun than just memorizing dates and locations and some old dude, I don't know. But
yeah, I agree. And I find it fascinating because you and I, well, the whole group of us, I mean, we say there's Hellfire girls, but we're really all a Hellfire group. The interesting part is we've been in some of the most haunted places in the world, or that have been claimed to be some of the most haunted places in the world. Yet, like, I'll give you an example: Chillingham Castle in England.
Amazing
Castle. I went up when everybody was down in the tea room. I went upstairs to the most haunted room, and I sat there for 25 minutes by myself because I'm thinking, okay, I'm a girl. In the mentality of that age, of the people in that, men in that age are like, oh, she's defenseless. I can take her on. And I thought, I'm going to go up there and see if I can get any VPs, if I can get anything. Nothing. I sat in that room for 25 minutes by myself. Actually, I think you're the one that walked in. Yeah. And I'm like, nothing.
Oh, and by the way, Susan says, I was there too.
Yes, she was. Susan was there. Harry and Connie, yeah.
For those of you don't know Susan, Susan is a real rocket scientist. No lie.
Like, for real.
For real. Yeah. She's awesome. She travels the world. She does cool stuff.
I know. She goes all the cool places.
So, Chillingham Castle.
Yes.
Because I hang out with weird people for the most part, you don't go, hey, how'd those Cowboys do? What's going on with the Patriots? I'm not really talking too much about sports. It's usually like, if you had 15 minutes and, Death shows up and he says, you got 15 minutes. What do you want to do? Chillingham Castle Tea Room might be my choice. It was sitting with stingrays and petting stingrays for a while. That was amazing experience. But man, I had such a good time just sitting in there with Neil Story and Fiona. And those of you who don't know Neil Story, look him up, Google him. He's an amazing author and writes a lot about England and military stuff, and he's really cool. So
his birthday.
Yesterday?
I think it was today.
Today? Happy birthday, Neil. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. And so I just loved that tea room at Chillingham Castle. I got a picture. Lynn took a picture of me in front of that amazing fireplace, which is like the witch's fireplace. It's not like a fireplace. It's huge and just amazing. So
castles. I feel like I belong in a castle. I mean, I'm just saying.
Of course you do. So do I. The princess inside of me says yes.
Yes. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
But so what else are we gonna do?
No, specifically as far as Chillingham, was there anything else there that kind of struck you as odd or interesting or whatever?
The whole place was interesting to me. The dungeons were really cool. The little torture things they had sitting out, that was terrifying, but also incredibly interesting. I don't know, in some distorted kind of way. I'm fascinated by that stuff. So,
when we're talking, a lot of people think of England as, white bread, kind of just plain potato soup kind of thing. But it's not. Bobby Ward says England was my favorite so far. Ireland was a close second, which is amazing because Ireland was amazing. I've had the fortune of I've gone to England, I think 4 times now. And I think there's something genetic, obviously, with Ireland and England with me because of, my lineage or whatever. But it is really beautiful and it's pretty amazing.
It really is. Ireland, I'll tell you, there's a place in Ireland, and we're going over there at some point because I want Damien. We've got to meet up with him.
Yeah, so Damien Denver he's a folklorist in Ireland and all around cool guy. We're going to hire him. We got to figure out what his rate's going to be per day and get him for like 3 days or so. And, because I know you're very interested in fairies.
I am. That's going to be my 3rd book, actually.
Well, and you and I have talked about collaborating on a book about fairies because I have another theory on the whole fairy folk thing, and we're not. When I say fairy folk, I'm not necessarily talking about the little, Walt Disney fairy that patters around. I'm talking about a small, humanoid type individual that is fairly mischievous. Would you say that?
That's exactly how you would.
The Vikings talked about when they would go ashore there, their boats would be there, whatever, and they're just doing their thing. They go back to the boat and there's stuff missing. It's like, where did it go? And it's not like, because you're in the small boat, and if you were stealing from each other, you'd find it. But
Right.
It's like there's nobody around. They're sitting there, and all of a sudden they go back and their stuff is gone. Gold missing.
Well, yeah, they made the fairies mad.
Yeah.
So if you don't know,
the fairy forts and the fairy rings over there, you look at that and it's like, well, it would make sense to me if you're a really small individual and there were humanoid people on, in that area, you might go underground. You might like the fairy forts are that they find. And maybe that's what they did. They hid underground and they took the tunnels and would pop up where you didn't expect them and steal your stuff, get back in the tunnel, and they just disappeared, like the legends say. So.
There's too many legends in too many countries about the fairy folk that I just feel like there's more to it. And the person that I am absolutely fascinated by is Reverend Robert Kirk in Scotland. That's where I want to go as Foil. And I know it's a touristy thing to go, but I feel like there's more to his story that needs to be told. And that's really what started my desire to do the book about fairies. Now, I'm only in the research phase of my book 3. Book 2 is rough draft complete. Brad Blair, it's complete.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. But yeah, I'm fascinated by it. And Reverend Robert Kirk is, the story is he discovered fairyland, and he did all kinds of documentation about what he found and the species that were there and the likes and dislikes and all the great things about them. And he never published it. And then someone found it after he passed and published the manuscript in like the 1800s, and then it was republished. I think that's amazing. That's just fascinating. So it's really cool. Anyway.
For those of you who are watching, you're tuned in to Detective Diaries. I'm your host, Greg Lawson, and we're talking with Nikki Folsom, who is a paranormal explorer, paranormal researcher, author, all-around cool chick, drinks vodka and what is it?
Ginger ale.
Peach vodka and ginger ale. And if you're watching and you haven't already shared this, it would help me out so much if you would share this and like it on your page, and also throw some comments in there as far as what you think, or if you have any questions for Nikki or I. So let's talk about this one.
Okay. Oh. the I don't remember the
Castle Fougeret. Fougeret. Yeah. See, I want to speak French, so I say, Castle Fougeret, but I think it's Fougeret. I think. Okay. I'm not sure. But anyway,
Castle forgot.
For those of you who've never seen this thing, so a few years ago, England and France had some problems, and England decided that they would invade France, and the king drove his army all the way to where this location is on the other side of the river, and the French were beat back pretty bad, and the French decided, you know what are the English doing? And they looked and they saw the English were building a castle, or like a keep to protect themselves. So the French built this, and they used it basically, I equate everything to either military or law enforcement. And obviously this was a military outpost, but it was kind of like a law enforcement substation. They built this big thing. It's going to protect the people that are there. It's actually, I say big thing. It's not that big, but it can be defended pretty well. And It was there to watch what the British were doing. And they would have individuals that would go out and try to capture British soldiers, bring them back to the castle, and then they would put them through an inquisition, so to say. So I was completely amazed by this place.
It was the people, the activity, just everything. The Amanda cracked me up with that bathroom. I think Susan and Amanda that were both at the that there was a bathroom to the side of it. There was no lights.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the most terrifying parts. But
it was, yeah. They were very concerned about that.
But the coolest, I love the castle because the family was so welcoming, and they made us this incredible dinner, and we sat in the castle and it was this medieval dinner. It was amazing. The food was delicious. It was just fabulous. So they fed us, made us super happy, and then they took us around and we did all kinds of amazing investigations. We did table tipping. We had readings. We played with Ouija boards. We did all kinds of things that.
It was amazing. And the folks, you got to get the whole picture of this thing. As we're coming in, the bus has to stop way out at the road, and we're walking in. We're walking through a medieval village that's in complete ruin. There's stables, there's houses, there's just all kinds of stuff. And you're walking through this thing. It's all got vines growing all over it and everything. And you walk in this clearing, and this big, facade is there. And the family that has it is a farming family from that area. And this particular thing, it costs so much money to upkeep something like that. And they decided, they sell it very cheaply because it's so costly to maintain. And so they took it over and bought it, and now, host overnight parties and probably weddings. I don't know, but they certainly host paranormal groups. And it was amazing. They had us broken up into 4 sections, ghost hunting on the top, doing a Ouija board or table tipping in one area, getting a reading, and then there was the dungeon. So,
oh yes, I forgot about the dungeon.
Yeah, here's the dungeon right there.
That's
I don't know
right.
if I can see that picture very well, but it's a pretty cool place, man.
Look at Eric with his cargo shorts. That's
Yeah. I like the cargo shorts.
I do too. He does too.
So I tell you what, in order for me not to ruin the whole thing, why don't you tell your rendition of the reading that we got? So for those of you who were not there, they put us in a room, and a woman that only spoke mainly French, she had a few English words, but that was it, came in as a medium to read everybody's palms or give everybody a reading. And there was a British woman there that was translating it into English. So Nikki, please tell us that story.
It was, so we were broken up into groups of 4. Oh God, you're going to ask me to remember what she said, and I can't.
Nope, I'm not.
Okay, they broke us up into groups of 4, and I know it was at the table. The French medium was sitting beside me, and then the English translator was beside her. Lynn was on my left, then Eric, then you, and I believe did she start with Lynn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she started with Lynn, and there was one of the groups, I think it was you, Greg, when everybody started to cry. We all cried.
I didn't cry.
Well, whatever. But I can't remember for the life of me what she told anybody. I remember her.
Good. Then I will fabricate the story.
Okay, good. I remember what she said to me vaguely, but that's
so. The amazing thing is that Lynn's contemporary knowledge of her lineage is French and Spanish, and this woman sits down and basically says, no, you're Welsh, basically. And the other thing is that, the Native American side of it. And it was pretty amazing because a few months later, we go and do a DNA test on Lynn, and she's like 68% Welsh.
Shut up. Really?
Oh, that's freaking weird, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so also, these people did not know the group that was coming there. I talked to Dave, and Dave did not give them a list of our names or any of that stuff. And so we go, and she sits down, and she finally gets to me, and I have never had a reading. I've never had a medium talk to me about anything that I've dealt with.
Okay. And
she sits and says, you were a sailor. You were always a sailor, which is amazing because in high school, my high school ring has an anchor on it. So that's pretty cool. I was like, all right, well, that's kind of cool, And she made a joke about me being a ladies' man. Oh, yeah. So you were a ladies' man. You were a sailor. And she goes, you're still a sailor. She goes, you're still a sailor. And you're a fisherman. But not for fish. For those of you who don't know, I was working lake patrol at the time for a sheriff's office, and one of my job was body recovery. So we did fish, not for fish.
I remember that part now. I remember it.
I'm sorry. That was one of those things that's what makes me keep going back to paranormal stuff is it's the little things. Every once in a while, could be completely random, could be, just by accident. But it's pretty amazing.
It is.
So that was a cool experience. Very cool experience.
It really, really was. And do you remember, Lynn, Eric's foot was swollen, so he was sitting in the one haunted room by himself watching the videos while you and Lynn shut the door and explored a room by ourselves. And we heard noises in the room with us, even though no one was there. That was really cool.
So Amanda says, tell us more about the dungeon. Yeah, let's talk about the dungeon a little bit.
Okay.
And here's that picture again.
I wish I dug out some of my pictures because I do have pictures that wasn't that the dungeon that had the big spider in it that we were all avoiding?
No, it wasn't a spider. It was they had the big newts down there, the big yellow
was.
Yeah.
I just knew it was nastiness and I needed to get away from it.
Oh, they were beautiful though. I can't even imagine them living down there. They're these very bright yellow. They were like 6 inches, 7 inches, and they had black spots on them. Mm-hmm. They were absolutely gorgeous little creatures, man. It was amazing.
You can have the newts. You can have the newts, and you can have all those pretty creatures.
You'll take the demons. You'll take the demons and ghosts any day. Is that what you're saying?
Thank you. I'll take them over people half the time.
Yeah. So Amanda, here's what the deal is on this is whenever they would take any prisoners, there were on one side of this castle was like a little torture chamber. The other side was this dungeon, and it was actually a crypt also. So there was at least one guy buried down in there, and he was a tax assessor collector that had come around. And this would have been in the late 1800s or late 1700s, early 1800s. And the owner of the place at that time decided to invite him in to stay. So he brought him in, killed him, and stuck him in that freaking thing, to avoid taxes and stuff. You got to do what you got to do.
I mean, yeah.
So that was the cool thing. It was very small areas, a set of stairs that went down. It was really creepy. And as you can see by the photo here, there's Eric all the way in the back, and then there's Lynn in her red jacket, and then there's Faye in front. And that was like the second set of stairs going down, right? It turned to the right, and then it went down into the thing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Just absolutely amazing place.
It was. And something completely not related to that French castle, but absolutely related to a dungeon that is really cool, Greg, is people that don't know me know I'm like that dog in Up where squirrel, that is me all the time. Even medicated, that's me. But speaking of dungeons, I'm glad Amanda said that, because there was something that happened in England at Warwick Castle at Sage Paracon. When we were there, was it 2017, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay. We were at Sage Paracon. I had several experiences there that I was so freaked out. MJ was having a fit. I was like, ugh! But Susan Cummins and me, and I think it was Rachel, a friend from Sage, Rachel, we were in the dungeon by ourselves, 3 girls by ourselves. And we decided to do an EVP. And we went over to the Oubliette. And
Oubliette, yeah.
Oubliette. I for some reason I was being pulled to it. And we walked over and I felt this need to talk to the person that was down there, the energy, the person, because I could feel they were down there. And as we started talking and asking questions and doing the EVP, Susan was great. She was recording it and asking questions. I started talking too. And I felt compelled to reach my hand through the grate that covered the entry, stuck my hand down, knowing full well something was going to touch me, even though it never did. And I just felt I needed to help this person. And I just said, you don't have to stay here. Your family has passed on. You don't have to stay here and suffer.
Yeah.
Susan was recording that. And when we played it back, it was 3 ladies in the dungeon. When we played it back, you heard me say, you don't have to stay here and suffer. And a man's voice says, suffer.
Yeah, I remember that when we played it back. It was freaking amazing.
So cool.
Ruth Ann also says, and you remember the tiny bat that was in there? There's a little bat. Yeah, I don't know what he was doing in there, but there's a bat in the little dungeon. He was pretty cool. I think we got some photos of him. So for those of you who are tuning in, you're listening to Detective Diaries, and I have Nikki Folsom, author, paranormal explorer, paranormal researcher, on with me, and we have traveled the world together, sort of, at least a little bit of America and Northern Europe. We went. Where did we meet?
Ireland.
Was it Ireland? Okay, I couldn't remember. You've been to Romania though?
I've not been. We were supposed to go, and we had stuff happen at the house and ended up not being able to go.
It happens, right? that's right. For sure. So tell us, let's go into talking a little bit about, we started off talking about you being an author.
Yeah.
And boom, look at us. That is Nikki Folsom and Greg Lawson signing books in France for all 3 people that showed up. It was wonderful.
Yes.
That was so much fun going there. And that cathedral that we went by in that little town was just absolutely amazing. Yeah. Just freaking crazy.
Yeah, there's so many great places in France. There's just so many. So
as far as the Harlequin Theater, let's go full circle, get back to the Harlequin here.
Okay.
Your experience throughout life and your paranormal journey. Was it just an accident you ended up at the Harlequin, or did you hear about it and you went, or what? What's the deal?
So there's a story behind it, and honestly, everything happens for a reason, right? So Ashton was going to school. Gosh, I can't remember what grade she was in. 2nd, 3rd. She was in elementary school.
Ashton is your daughter.
Ashton is my youngest daughter, and one of her best friends, Samantha, invited her to go to a summer camp for performing, which kickstarted her into performing. That's what she does now. And that's how we were introduced to the Harlequin Theater. So after she started performing, I had been involved in theater since my grandmother pulled me to participate in Little Abner when I was 13, my Mimi. So I've always been pulled to theater. I've always been pulled to entertainment. and started going down, volunteering, doing a lot of stuff. Ended up meeting my very best friend, and who manages the theater. Sean and Robert both manage the theater, and I adore them. But that's how I ended up at the Harlequin with Ashton. Was her going down there, and then I started doing plays. She would do musicals, and she did the kids musicals for a while, and then she moved into the main stage shows.
Right.
It's been fantastic. She's actually doing one this summer.
So Alyssa asked, okay, Nikki, which is your favorite spirit at the Harlequin? Because for those of you who haven't read Nikki's book, it's not just that. I mean, it's like a smorgasbord of activity. It's just, I mean, there's all kinds of reported stuff everywhere all the time.
It is. And I love Alyssa. She's also a volunteer at the theater. She does just about everything too. She runs sound for me when I'm not there, and she runs the bar and all kinds of stuff. She's a performer as well. I think my favorite spirit at the Harlequin, there's a little old man. I don't know his name. He's got khaki pants and a white shirt and disheveled gray hair. And when I run sound, where the soundboard is, it's the back of the theater so that I can see and hear and all that good stuff. And he will lean up against the door frame beside me where I'm sitting. And he just gives me that grandfatherly feel. You know how you feel protected and comforted and supported and all that stuff. He's just a very sweet spirit, and I really, really like his energy. So he's probably my favorite spirit. One night, Alyssa, speaking of Alyssa, since she pinged me, I was running sound for the show, and we were at the end. I'm trying to remember what show it was. We were at the end of end of Act 2, and it's like the big finale where the whole cast is on stage, and I'm running all the faders, and I'm making sure that everything's blended properly, and this like screaming sound in my ear wouldn't stop. And it was so loud that I couldn't hear the folks singing on stage. And I run sound a little loud. I'm going to say that. Yeah, I do. Sean likes it that way, so whatever he says goes. But I was running it, but it was so loud I couldn't hear what was happening on the stage. So I grabbed Alyssa. I put her beside me between where the sound was coming into my ear, and I said, I need you to block this. I don't know why. I knew she could do it. I just knew she could. I put her there. And when I looked at her, her eyes were closed, and it had stopped in my ear, and she was taking it all for me. So she was a trooper that night, and I appreciate it. We all experience things. I have to show you, if I haven't showed you the picture yet, Robert took the one night where he took a selfie of himself, and there's a person behind him in the theater, but no one was in the theater. The entire cast was on stage doing a read through. Remind me to send you that, because
okay. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I love seeing stuff like that. Yeah. So tell us, what do you got in the works? What new stuff do you have, and what kind of things are you expecting to do during this COVID experience?
So I just finished the first draft of Conflicted Reality, which is my second book, and it's basically the paranormal journey of me. And my girls all have paranormal experiences as well. So a lot of it is in there. Kirsten, my oldest daughter, is, bless her heart, she started experiencing things very young too. And she's had 2 shadow people that have followed her entire life. One's a little boy and one's a man. And the experiences have just grown over the years. So between Kirsten and Ashton and the stories in the book, there's just so much stuff. And it's not every paranormal journey is an Amityville Horror or a Conjuring or something like that, which those people like Andrea Perron and Chris Quarantino are fabulous.
Which I should have Andrea on Detective Diaries here the next couple of weeks. So
I love her. She is a doll. She's a doll. But not every story is like that. Some paranormal journeys are just things that are terrifying, but yet things that are wonderful too. Like my grandmother, who sends me the smell of monkey bread, because we used to make monkey bread together. And the story of Allison, my other best friend, who for her wedding, her dad had passed prior to her wedding, and I said, he's going to show, and this humongous butterfly followed her and us all day long. So
Yeah.
I know he was there. So
what do you have coming up? Do you have any events that are coming up that you're going to, or?
We're planning to go, as long as COVID cooperates, we're planning to go to the Michigan Paracon and hang out up there with everybody. I will not drink as much as I did last year because that didn't turn out so well for me.
That's right. You were down for a day, weren't you?
Oh, God bless me.
Are you speaking? Or do you have
No. I'm totally going to just enjoy it. And I may actually call Brad and see if there's any vendor space available. I may take some products up and some books. Hopefully I'll have conflicted reality too and be able to share that. But then in November, I'm going to Sage Paracon with you.
Yeah, Sage is going to be awesome.
It is. I think Richard is going to be there. I know that Jeff's, I'm not going to remember everybody, but I know Jeff Belanger, Richard Eastep, you, me, Aaron Sagers is going to be there. Dana and Greg Newkirk will be there, which I love them. I love their stuff. If you haven't watched Hellier yet, you need to watch Hellier. I know I'm MJ, obviously. Who am I missing?
No, I think that's good. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope this thing goes. I hope they do whatever they got to do, and we get to go over there to England and have a good time and experience Coombe Abbey, because MJ Dixon has really set up something pretty amazing. If you guys haven't gone to Sage Paracon, go to the website, check it out. It's absolutely worth going to. Nikki, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and chatting with us on Detective Diaries.
Thank you for having me. I'll
come
back sometime. Let me know when you want me back. I'm coming back.
Okay, we'll do it again. Thank you, and I will see you probably when? This weekend?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Nikki. All right, everybody. That was Nikki Folsom. She is the author of The Haunted Harlequin. She is a paranormal researcher and explorer. And next week, June 2nd, I'm going to have Gypsy Jules on here from Zero Discrimination Metal Detecting. She's a friend of mine that we've worked together on 2 different projects, and I bring her in to confirm particular evidence at particular haunted or paranormal locations. The day or 2 days after that will be Thursday, June 4th. And Reverend Tim Shaw. If you don't know Tim Shaw, you need to tune into this. Reverend Tim Shaw and I will be discussing all things weird. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in to Detective Diaries. If you would share this broadcast and put any comments on it, man, it'd be great. If you like it, that would be awesome. And I hope to see you next Tuesday, June 2nd. Thanks for tuning in. See you later. Bye.